thinking, David?
I'm thinking, I hope he's all right, and I'm thinking, wow, nothing on earth would make me get into water that cold, this deep in a cave, in an unexplored sump.
Yeah.
And I hope he gets through, because if he does, it will be a fantastic breakthrough.
On the other piece of wood, just opposite, no, on the rail, yeah. Just put, no, wait, yeah, okay, that's what I need. So I'm going to have to make damn sure I mark this the right way each time. So what I might do is actually just do that.
Caving is different in as much as it's a completely different world. It pulls you out of your other world and you start to be very much in the now. And that in itself is almost therapeutic. I'll go caving and then after an hour everything else is not important and you're back to yourself, and that's the real core, I think, of it.
That shows the way out.
That's
So you can feel it. It makes like an arrow. It just gives you some happiness that you're going the right way.
I was a diver a long time ago, and it was a decision not to marry the two sports together. Cave diving at this time was still very dangerous. There was a lot of accidents and things going on. I was trying to go places I couldn't go, and I was being restricted by these sumps. So some number of years ago, I did a bit, and then I began to improve and actually do it in a more serious way, and it became another handle to cave exploration.
I don't know what drives these divers. I mean, I did toy with the idea years ago of doing it, but then two of my friends drowned, and that's not good, is it? And I don't know that many cave divers. You've got to be absolutely cool, and also you've got to be a fanatic. Most cavers' gear is half bust most of the time, but you know, and they get by, make it work. But with the diving gear, every single little bit has to be right, otherwise you're going to drown. Cave divers are a special breed, I think.
There are a lot of things that you have to, and the French use the word maîtrise, you have to control, you have to be very calm, controlled, you have to know all of the procedures and everything correctly, so that when things go wrong, you know how to react.
Oxford University Cave Club first came up here to Ario in 1961. And in those days, you know, people were using ladders and lifelines, very heavyweight, cumbersome gear.
We found ourselves at the top of this large natural shaft, going down vertically for some 120 feet.
But the sort of current wave of expeditions really started in 1979. Very quickly, they discovered the entrance to a cave which they called Poço del Chitu. And this cave was explored to what was, at that time, by far the deepest depth ever reached by British cavers.
And we were very pleased to explore it to below 1,000 metres deep. Fantastic. And we thought that was the Great Cave, but it wasn't. It turned out that 2-7, which is on the mountain behind us over there, actually leads down to the Master Streamway. At all times, the cavers try and keep as dry as possible, as this water is only barely above freezing.
And, you know, there have been expeditions almost every year since. Many caves have been found. And so it's just been this ongoing project that's carried on, you know, year after year. And gradually, you know, the dream has formed of connecting all or most of these caves into one gigantic super system.
When you connect F64 to C4 into 27 into Cooley-Embro, you have a system in excess of 1,650 metres deep, which is really quite epic.
I hope that we do realise the Ario dream, which is 55 years in the making now. This is 55 years of people who've been working away at every little part of the story.
This Paradise Rift is in fact an extremely awkward passage, requiring a great deal of skill and an even greater deal of effort to get through. All the cavers know that rescue from beyond this section would be impossible. Well, 27 we explored, and they found lots of passages, and one of those passages goes very close to a cave that actually I found in 1982 called C4, and the bottom of C4 is very close to the upstream end of the passage in 27.
And if we can make the connections between the caves on the top of the mountains and the bottom of the gorge, we have a very deep cave system. Now, Shetu is already connected, but these entrances, C3, C4, 27, are a lot higher up. So if we can make all those connections and get them to join into Cooley-Embro 2, we really do have, you know, a serious sort of top 5 world-class system on our hands.
Where you'd be able to enter right on the top of the mountain and emerge right at the bottom of the gorge. And if we were to do that, that would actually be the world's biggest through trip, which would be quite something.
That was kind of our main goal, was to go back, re-rig C4 and put a diver in the sump to make that, you know, really historic connection.
But it's a technical problem of getting a diver to the top of a mountain with all his kit. And my wife Sarah and I carried these huge heavy bottles right to the top of a mountain, and full of air. I mean, how mad is that? And someone else carried a rucksack full of lead.
I've drummed all the instruments and the masks, so we shouldn't be able to break those. And it's just the GoPro I need to think about to actually put that somewhere, and I might give that to Diff or something. So we do need, I think, a matter of 6 going to the sump with me. That's the answer. If I get to the other side and decide that I mean, firstly, I need to actually identify is this the right place. So hopefully there'll be a marker or some sort of, I don't know whether they've left anything. And if I've got the GoPro, just do a shot of it. If I feel fine, I'll just go straight back in and come back to you. But that's where it gets a bit iffy on time. The timing may be that you cannot rescue me. So if I don't reappear for a long time, then you might decide that some people need to go back out. I may be a couple of hours away. That is heavy, and then this is effectively another load, so that's heavy. The hard part for the diving that I do is getting the equipment into place. It's all of the pre-preparation, it's the thinking about how you're going to package things so they're going to get damaged, splitting loads, getting it there, making sure everything arrives not broken.
You've got 600 metres of pitches to negotiate. You've got 2 or 3 quite awkward rifts, one of them particularly awkward with tackle. And then you've got to carry the kit. So you've got sort of some big sausage-shaped tackle bags. You've got the diving cylinders themselves, you've got the dry suit, you've got all the other equipment, the dive computer and the stuff that goes with it. Then, of course, you know, because the trip becomes very long, you need to camp underground, so you've got to carry food for your camp. So it becomes quite a heavyweight sort of siege operation to put a diver in the water, a real kind of pyramid. Quite a few supporters to get one guy in the water to see if he can make that connection work. soon as you're past the daylight barrier, as it were, the threshold, you're in an underworld, and the further you go, the deeper and more mysterious and richer it seems.
A friend of mine puts it very well in terms of why do you cave, and it's for the story. You're part of a team that wants to find things, so what you've really got is a goal. The goal could almost be anything. So it's not just the ego, it's that it makes a good tale.
Caving is one of the few genuinely collaborative, non-competitive sports. You know, once you're in a team of people going down a cave, I mean, you have to look after each other. That's just the way it is. You could never imagine cavers being responsible for some of these horror stories you've heard about, you know, people being left to die high up on Mount Everest and people tramping past them on their way to the summit because they've paid their $50,000 or whatever it is and they've just got to get there. Cavers just could never behave like that. The ethos of caving, it's non-competitive, it's not showing off. Nobody's caring about, you know, designer labels on their gear. Indeed, with cavers, often it's the sort of anti-chic ethos. You know, the shabbier your kit, the more hardcore you are.
Is that perhaps it allows you to keep flexible emotionally, to keep brave. There are virtues which you don't always have a chance to exercise in everyday life, and there might be a time in your life, in fact, where you actually need to be brave, not because you've chosen to abseil down a big dark hole, but there are times when bravery is required. We recognise there's no intrinsic virtue in exploring voids in limestone, but perhaps what goes through your head or through the team is worthwhile in its own right in some way. It's a way of answering some needs that people have in their own psyche, in their own soul.
It's kind of like a treasure hunt, because you have to kind of try and really understand the geology and hydrology of what's going on, and then you've got to pick the right place to go. And so you're trying to read the cave and understand the environment. So it's not just about getting over the obstacles, but it's about picking the right obstacles. Whereas like when you're climbing or kayaking or doing other sports, you can at least see or imagine what you're going to see in front of you. Whereas when you go caving, you've just got absolutely no idea. And it could be spectacularly beautiful or spectacularly grim.
Ruben, you couldn't get in her bag, could you? Can you put the donkey dicks inside? Yeah, the other ones.
It's reasonably narrow, it's by no means desperate, but it's coated in a lovely slippery mud, which makes it the perfect recipe for getting stuck like a cork in a bottle. I suppose the thing that's always in the back of your mind is that you don't want to slip down into the rift and get properly wedged, because it's such a difficult place to be rescued out of.
Bit more slack. Yeah, down, down. Go through.
This was Paul's second attempt at diving the sump. On the first trip, the sump really unexpectedly went down to over 30 metres depth, and we didn't bring enough air for that.
I'm sure that knowing that so many other people are committing a lot of time and effort to make it happen must add to the pressure. I mean, I think it is a stressful position to be in, to be a sole diver on an exploratory expedition in any cave really, but especially one as big as this. He has a reputation as, we call him the diva diver, because when he's approaching a dive, he's very demanding. He wants everything to be just right, and he won't have anybody, say anything that gets in the way.
My most important thing is to stay alive. Diving for me is not an ego trip. It is exploration. It is something to be done safely at all times.
Don't pull it. That's shot.
It's a mental change you have to go through when you actually are at the sump. You're going to be going into an environment and you don't know where it's going to turn, you don't know whether it's going to be muddy, whether it's going to be low, whether it's going to go deep. So you have to have a lot of preparation plans in your head.
Now, there's the routing for that. You check the routing for this back, this light. Okay. Bring it around. I want it on here. Bring it under mine. Bring it underneath. Let go. Let go. I need the light. Where's the light?
The light is here.
Give it, I need it.
And in this particular case, I'd already calculated that I'd be going to I could have gone as deep as 40 metres. I had to make sure I had enough air. I had to have deco air in case I needed that. But the ultimate thing is you don't know what is ahead of you. Slowly you move from being a caver to going into the diving mode. At the latter stages, other people matter less and less, and I need to shut down, I need to push people out.
Did you not go for it? No, I it's just not fitting on.
you thinking, David?
I'm thinking, I hope he's all right, and I'm thinking, wow, nothing on earth would make me get into water that cold, this deep in a cave, in an unexplored sump.
Yeah.
And I hope he gets through, because if he does, it will be a fantastic breakthrough. He said it could be 2 hours if he gets through, because he'll have to ascertain that the cave that he comes up in is 27, the cave that we believe this connects with. And so he'll need to look for signs that it is, and explore the passage just a little way to make sure that it is the same place that was visited some years ago, nearly 20 years ago, I think. And then he'll come back.
What time is it now?
It's 10 o'clock. So, we'll see when he comes back.
So what happens if midnight comes and he doesn't?
Well, I suppose we'd get very worried, and we'd have to take a decision about maybe leaving 1 or 2 people here and sending others out to raise the alarm. For quite a long time we could see his blue lights receding under the surface as he looked for the arch that he found last year. And eventually, clearly, by this time, he was quite a long way under the water, because then he just disappeared. And then, of course, he came back very, very rapidly, because he had potentially absolutely catastrophic equipment failure. And, I've never heard somebody finning through a silent lake like that. You could hear the splashes as he approached the surface.
Water. Give me that water.
What happened to Paul was really the stuff of people's worst nightmares.
Oh, my Lord. Shut it down.
So as he was diving, both of his regulators, both the sources of his air started to free flow, which basically just means that it starts dumping out the stuff that you need to stay alive.
Okay, let's stay still now. Shit. My valves went to free flow.
You're going to need to rest here for quite a while, aren't you?
Yeah. Just... Shit. Right. Sorry. Look, you need to do this. Fucking hell. Both valves free flow. I couldn't shut them down. I did all of the valve changes. And I just had to swim back, and I went for the 4 at the end. Thank God I laid the line so I could see what I'm doing. Right. So I need to just sit still because I come up awfully fast. I tried to check the line distance, but I've pulled off a lot of the line, over 100 metres. Sorry?
So you tie the line off and you just leave it where it was?
I just dumped it, I just banged it in the sand. I think that's quite a bit deeper than that I went actually. because that's showing the average depth.
He is a very resilient guy, and you know, a little over 2 hours later, he was setting off back to the surface, back in his normal caving kit, as if nothing had happened.
It hasn't put me off diving. It's just a matter of, this was a failure that was so dramatic. I need to understand exactly what went wrong. My view is it's now up to somebody else to look at. I've given it 2 goes. I put a lot of time into this and a lot of effort. I don't need to die for it.
After the dive, we focused our efforts on the upstream leads. And these were incredibly promising because they had the potential to go into a big cave, F64, which was the key to unlocking another chunk of our depth potential. So we had to use bolt climbing techniques so that we could make our way to the top and explore the ongoing passage.
It's a marvellous feeling getting to an underground pit that no one's ever been down, and you tie your rope to something and slide down it to the bottom, and you're the first person ever to walk. I remember one time landing on this patch of sand and walking across, and looking back at my footprints, the first footprints. It's like being Neil Armstrong, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Chamber, all right?
It's not difficult to find new cave in the Picos. There's so much cave there. But that's not really the objective of the Areo Caves project. The objective has always been to try and make connections between caves that have been explored historically and connect them together to form one of the world's deepest caves. The really nice thing about the chamber, though, was that it was quite an inviting and really quite a lovely space to be in. And then also there was a lovely flat floor, which means that you could make a really, really nice camp there. So as well as finding the huge sanctuary chamber, we also found several other new passages, some of which are leading off towards higher known caves like F64, but others which are just heading off into uncharted territory. All of these upstream leads are actually still ongoing, and we've just literally run out of time on this year's expedition, so we'll have to come back again and keep going.
The trip out of the cave is harder work. All the 800 metres of ropes have to be ascended by prussicking, a technique named after the man, Mr. Prusik.
Underground, basically everything's a different shade of brown. You don't see greens, reds, There's no organic molecules in the air. When you come out, you get assaulted, all your senses. If you come out in the daylight, it's indescribably bright, having had 3 days or 4 days underground. And then the smell in the air, you don't realise normally how much smell there is in the air. You become adapted to it. But underground, you lose that adaptation. And when you pop out of the top of the entrance, suddenly all these smells of the grasses and the wind and the flowers all sort of hit you. So it's like the end of a sort of solar eclipse, isn't it? You know, the world goes back to how it should be.
To be honest, I went up to university saying I want to solo cave and I want to be a cave diver, and God, you know, not unreasonably, you know, an 18-year-old who was only semi-competent, it scared everyone silly. Strangely enough, it turned out that I have a certain natural calmness of temperament which does suit cave diving. So completely against expectation, it wasn't something that I was desperately bad at and have at least survived so far. It's full of ghosts in a good way. If I walk along this path up the hill, then there's the friends I've known for the last 25, 28 years. They're all there somewhere. And there's also me at 18 and me at 25 and me at 35.
As their legs get more and more tired, the reward for the cavers is a view that gets more and more spectacular.
We have those little snapshots of a life being lived with that certain similarity of the place and the endeavours. There's rocks that are in just the same places when I first saw them as a teenager. You see that, and it just gives you that sense of a dedication to a place.
The new sanctuary camp was brilliant because it acted as a really great base for the dive team.
From my point of view, the long journey to the summit means there's more chance that the equipment is going to go wrong when you get there. Hence the very long time preparing it. You've had to take it to pieces, and although it's quite a kindly environment, it's by no means the perfect place to put together relatively fine tolerance machinery. So you have a sense of it. You know, I don't know what's happened to it exactly. People have been gentle, but it's got a bit battered, it's got a bit dirty. Can I put it together so it's not going to cause any unpleasant surprises when I'm underwater? And people in the past used to think of sumps as being the end of a cave. I think what we think a lot more now is it's just another bit of passage that needs particular skills to traverse, that's all. So I was choosing to use a rebreather, which is fine, but there's a little bit more intensity of emotion about, is it going to work, is it going to... When rebreathers fail, they do it in quite an exciting way. A rebreather allows you to recycle the air that you breathe in and breathe out. When you breathe out, the air that you expired goes into what we call a scrubber, which is a canister full of softener lime. This is a material which takes out the CO2. If you take the CO2 out of what you've breathed, you can breathe it again, because the amount of oxygen that you've used in the air is relatively small. Just means that you get 4 or 5 breaths for everyone that you normally get. There's a purifying element as you get towards a dive where you know you've got to really perform quite well, and you do start to leave behind humanity. When the hood goes on, when you can't really hear people very well and you're lip reading, then that's one of the last stages, because at that point you're in the moment of diving, even if you're not underwater, you're still already there. Other people can help you so far, but in the end it is just you, and you've got to make it work. The psychological thing of being perfectly relaxed and perfectly aware can probably be achieved through yoga, but can also be achieved by strapping scuba tanks to you and going into some cold dark puddle. We're not adrenaline junkies, we're often controlled and focused people, and I think that is the personality trait that allows you to continue to have really unexciting dives, which means you keep on doing them. Before I was a parent, I didn't intend to die in a muddy puddle, and after a parent, I still didn't intend to die in a muddy puddle, and I will do everything in my power not to do that, as long as I'm still allowed to have the good bits of cave diving which don't involve dying in a muddy puddle.
Yes, if you pass me the arm-related things, that'll be a compass or the computer, doesn't matter which. Thank you. The horror. Okay.
So Tony, what's the maximum amount of time you're going to spend?
Give me a couple of hours.
Okay, cool.
You get to about 4 hours, you go, something's gone a bit funny, because otherwise I would be coming back and come up May.
Yeah.
But that could mean a beyond sump accident. So it would be perhaps worthwhile getting Tekka in and calling in the various people you've contacted as you need to.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
It's taken a lot of years of hard work to get another diver here, and hopefully we'll make the connection this year, because big cave to be found, a long dream of many people, so yeah, fingers crossed. third time lucky. I mean, I don't even want to think about it in some ways because it's kind of two ends of an extreme, incredibly elated and or kind of really disappointed, but it's not the place to be feeling really disappointed because there are so many things that are kind of wearing away at your will to live, like this freezing cold, gritty undersuit. But if he does make it, it would be so many, many years of hard work will have finally come together.
Let us pause in life's pleasures and count its many tears while we all absorb.
57 years of people doing expeditions, and you know, we stand here and we think that, you know, what we're having to endure is so hard and the efforts that we've done is so much, but we're only a small number of people out of 57 years of expeditions, and today is a really key day. If it goes well, then it's amazing. It will be a dream that lots and lots of people will have hoped for.
Get good at tennis or something instead.
Still there. Hillary Greaves. Lynn Mullally. Gotcha.
Well done, Tony.
I didn't see it on the way in. Woohoo! So I'm quite a long way downstream, and I got footage of boots we all had with the red silk Dunlops, and they're really distinctive. I actually got some footage of the boot, so I knew we were there.
Yeah.
Ha-ha! These are boot prints, and I think those are Dunlop's treads from OUCC. So I think we've made connection here with cave 27. Went a bit further, saw more boots, and came back by some point, looked at it more carefully. There's a carbide splodge, little cairn with that. So that's quite nice to get.
Oh, fantastic. That's really good.
That's good.
Hillary Greaves, a legend of a woman.
Was that 3rd of August 2000?
I was very pleased to see that. Actually, it was kind of nice to see the friends have been there.
Yeah.
Because I knew we'd been there.
Yeah.
Because the boots were really, really distinctive. We all had them.
Yeah.
And seeing that, I was like, oh, good. Oh, that's better.
What a privilege to be one tiny little part of a very big puzzle.
Yeah.
That so many people have invested so many hard times and amazing times.
How do you feel, Steph?
I don't have words. Which says a lot for me because I speak a lot. It's going to take a while for that to sink in. Yeah. It just makes it all worth it, and I'm feeling warm now. Not feeling so cold.